Welcome to 5 Minute BTech channel. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the unsung hero of your digital life. The single most important piece of software you use every single day, but probably never ever think about. Your operating system.
I mean, have you ever really stopped to wonder? When you click on an icon, save a document, or just wiggle your mouse around, who's in the background, making it all happen? It's not magic, I promise you. It's the master conductor, the invisible force running the whole show.
And that invisible force has a name, the operating system, or OS for short. Now, for the rest of this explainer, I want you to think of the OS as the general manager of your computer. It's the one in charge, making sure every single part of the company plays nice together. So what's its official job description? Well, put simply, the OS is the ultimate middleman. It's the essential bridge between your software, like your games and web browsers, and your actual hardware. It translates your clicks into a language that your computer's processor and memory can actually understand. Without it, your apps and your PC would basically be strangers who don't speak the same language.
And this, right here, is where the OS is an absolute superstar. Just try to imagine listening to music while you're writing an email, but without an OS. It would be total chaos. Each program would be fighting for resources, tripping over each other. It would be a crash fest. The OS acts like a traffic cop, directing everything and preventing those digital pileups.
So if our OS is the general manager, what's on its daily to-do list? Let's take a look at some of its most important jobs.
Okay, wow, that is a lot of responsibility. This manager is definitely busy, right? It's juggling everything from which program gets to run to where your data is stored, and even keeping things secure. For now, let's just zero in on 3 of its biggest roles: process, memory, and file management.
First up, we've got process management. You can think of the OS as the ultimate taskmaster for your computer's brain, the CPU. It slices up the CPU's attention into these tiny milliseconds and hands them out to different apps. That's how you can have a dozen browser tabs open while a video is playing. The OS is just switching between all those tasks at lightning speed.
Next, there's memory management. So, if the CPU is the brain, then RAM is kind of like the computer's short-term memory, or its disk space. The OS acts like a super organized space planner. It gives each application its own little section of the desk to work in and makes absolutely sure that nobody scribbles over anyone else's notes.
And of course, file management. This is where the OS basically becomes the world's best librarian. It knows exactly where every single file is, from that selfie you saved 5 minutes ago to the critical system files it needs to even start up. It creates that whole folder system you see and decides who gets a library card to access what.
Okay, so we've got a pretty good idea of what our manager does, but what's it actually made of? How does it pull all this off? Let's pop the hood and take a look at the core components.
Right at the very heart, the absolute core of every operating system is something called the kernel. Now, you never see it, you never interact with it directly, but it's the engine room. It's having all the low-level, super technical conversations with your computer's hardware. Everything else is built right on top of this foundation. You know, the best way to understand the whole structure is to look at its 2 key parts. You have the kernel. That's the hidden, internal brain doing all the heavy lifting. And then you have the shell. That's the part you actually see and use. Think of it like the control panel you use to give orders to the brain.
So how do we actually use that control panel to give our orders? Well, our general manager listens to us in 2 main ways. On one hand, you've got the GUI, the graphical user interface. This is what most of us are used to, right? Clicking on pretty icons, dragging windows around, using a mouse. It's visual, it's intuitive. But on the other hand, you have the CLI, or command line interface. This is purely text. You type in your commands. Now, it might look a little old school, but for developers and IT pros, it is incredibly powerful and way more efficient. Both of them are just different ways of talking to the kernel.
All right, let's wrap this up and give this unsung hero the credit it truly deserves.
So here's the big picture one last time. What is it? It's the manager between you and the hardware. What's it do? It manages all the important resources and services. And what's it made of? A bunch of core parts, like that kernel and shell we talked about, plus drivers for your printer and all the other bits and pieces. It is, without a doubt, the foundation for everything you do. And that's really the key takeaway here. From your phone to your gaming PC, none of the amazing stuff we do with our devices would even be possible without this incredibly complex, invisible piece of software just working away tirelessly in the background.
So, I'll leave you with this little thought. Now that you've met the general manager, what do you think would happen if it just decided to take a day off? Your computer wouldn't crash. No, it would never even start. It would just be a silent, useless box of electronics, a very expensive paperweight. If you like the video, hit like and subscribe the channel, and I'll meet you in the next video.